Happy Monday, Mountain Lions. I can't wait to see you all at morning meeting in just a little bit. It's something I definitely look forward to start my week. I've been hearing from home that the videos are even better when they have Thor and Ruby. Like, I know I'm not that entertaining, and I know they're way cuter, so I understand. So I thought, I would show you them real fast. This is Rue, as you know, teeny tiny, cute and snorty. And big boy TT, kooky with the tongue. Very lovable, very loud. All right, so with that said, last week, I guess, I had asked you about being away from your adults for 4 to 5 months because Brightbill was migrating with the geese and he had to leave Roz. So I asked you how you would feel being away that long. It's a really long time. And a lot of you, as expected, you know, it'd be a little bit sad to be away from home for such a long period. I know when I was little, I had a really hard time. Even now, it's so hard to not kind of speak to your adults and the people that you love and are important in your life. So it might be hard for Brightbill, right, being on his migration. And I bet you equally as hard for Roz, his mom, right, being separated from him. So that's great. And then you predicted if people would come, or animals would come, to the nest to stay warm for winter. So today we will see if they do. All right, let's get to it. Chapter 55 is called The Lodgers. They're gonna talk about hares as an animal. Hares is an Hares, is another term for rabbits. The Lodgers. Firelight spilled out from the nest and into the cold, blustery night. Roz sat inside and listened to the wind and to the soft pops and crackles of burning wood. And then the robot's keen hearing picked up on another sound. Tiny footsteps crunching through the snow. Roz, I'm freezing. Can I join you by the fire? Said a weak voice. Into the light crawled Chit-Chat. The squirrel was shivering, and clumps of ice stuck to her fur. When she finally felt the heat of the fire, she collapsed. Roz picked her up off the floor, gently placed her on a warm stone, and let her sleep. An hour later, there were more footsteps, and a family of hares shuffled into the nest. They huddled together in a corner without saying a word. Pinktail the opossum was next to arrive. Good evening, she mumbled, trying to act cheerful. It's certainly been chilly. Swooper the owl hobbled in, followed by some chickadees and a magpie. Fink knew a good thing when he saw it, and the fox lay down right by the fire. Then came Dig Down the groundhog. The fuzzy bandits carried in an old turtle named Crag, who was in the worst shape of all. Creatures who should have been hibernating deep underground had been roused up by the vicious weather. Only the healthiest animals with the warmest homes were safe. So there's the nest providing fire. More and more weary animals appeared, and slowly the lodge filled up. This was the first time many of the lodgers had seen fire, and they gazed at it with a mixture of fear and hope. They could feel the fire's destructive power, but they could also feel its healing power as it warmed their bones. The lodgers seemed to push forward, eager to feel more warmth, and then pull back, afraid of feeling too much. It was important that the lodgers understood fire, so Roz showed them how to build one. She showed the smaller animal how to arrange the kindling, and she showed the bigger animals how to arrange the logs. Bumpkin, Lumpkin, and Rumpkin struck the firestones together, and everyone cheered when they finally managed a spark. So I think that this part is showing a lot about who Roz is. She's being such a great teacher and a leader, and just so kind and caring for all of the other animals. So I think it just kind of speaks a lot to who she is. As Roz looked around, she saw moles curling up beside an owl, a mouse snuggling between 2 weasels, hares nestling against the badger. Never before had the robot seen prey and predators so close and peaceful. But how long could the peace last? I propose a truce, said Roz, like the Dawn Truce. Everyone must agree not to hunt or harm one another while in my lodge. I think that's pretty fair. Very well, said Swooper, after consulting his carnivorous friends. We hunters will control ourselves. So carnivorous, like carnivore, those meat eaters. Then it's settled, said Roz. My home is a safe place for all. One by one, the lodgers each fell into a deep sleep. Even the nocturnal creatures, usually wide awake at that hour, gave in to the coziness of the nest. The robot stood out of the way and quietly tended to the fire as her guests slept all through the night. Only when daylight was streaming in through the door did the lodgers finally begin to stir awake. You are all welcome to stay as long as you like, said the robot, as the animals rubbed sleep from their eyes. My home is your home. Thanks a lot, Roz. Fink carefully stepped over a hare and a woodpecker on his way to the door. I don't think I would have survived another night out on my own. It's just too bad we can't cram a few more creatures in here. And the fox slipped outside. The robot looked down at the fur and feathers now carpeting the floor. The nest had been completely full. If any more animals showed up, they'd be left out in the cold. But Roz was not about to let that happen. I want you to think at home, what do you think her solution is going to be? There's no more room inside the nest. She doesn't want anyone out in the cold. What do you think the solution might be? Take a second and think. Chapter 56. The new lodges. The second lodge would have been bigger than the first if it was going to fit, would have to be bigger than the first if it was going to fit Broadfoot, the bull moose. He was a towering hulk of an animal and had a thick coat of fur, but even he was struggling with the frigid temperatures. Broadfoot lived on the other side of the pond in a dense section of forest that was home to many animals, most of whom were in desperate need of a good thaw. The winter days were short, so there was no time to waste, and rather than walking all around the pond, Roz tested its frozen surface to see if it was safe to cross. She threw a heavy rock high in the air and watched it bounce off the hard ice. Then she carefully walked over the ice and into the forest on the other side, where she found Broadfoot waiting for her. The moose quietly led the robot into the clearing in the trees, where the new lodge would go. Then Roz made a fire and watched as cold creatures began crawling out from the shadows. Do not worry, the robot said to the growing crowd, steam puffing from their noses. You will all be warm soon. But I need your help. Roz asked the animals to collect anything useful they could find. Large stones, strong branches, chunks of frozen mud. With the robot's building expertise and the small army of helpers, construction of the second lodge didn't take long. The animals happily agreed to the robot's truce, and then they shuffled into the warm wooden dome. If you keep the fire alive, it will keep you alive, explained Roz as she dropped another log onto the flame. But be careful. Fire can turn deadly in an instant. At dawn, heavy snow was falling, and there was Roz, setting out from the nest to build a third lodge. She trudged into the great meadow, where the fierce winds had created enormous swooping snowdrifts. But she powered through and finished the job, and was soon beginning work on a fourth lodge, and then a fifth. The island became dotted with lodges that all glowed warmly through those long winter nights. And inside each one, animals laughed and shared stories and cheered their good friend, Roz. All right, I've been going a little long with these read-alouds, I've been noticing, so I'm going to pause right there. And next time we're going to pick up with the next chapter. So normally if we were at school, I would read the next chapter title to you and ask you to make a prediction about what's going to happen. So I'm going to ask you as part of your response. The next chapter is called The Fire. So I want you to think about what we just heard about Roz, the animals, and now all these new lodges, how they're staying warm. And the next chapter title is called The Fire. So what do you think might happen as we move forward? All right, talk to you in just a bit at morning meeting. See you soon.